Hello, everybody, and welcome to our special intro episode of The Jersey Doesn't Come Off. My name is Donovan Kennedy, and with me I have...
It's your boy, Freddie Goodman. What's poppin', guys? We also got...
I'm Connor Johnson. I'm the handsome one of the group. Freddie and Donovan are here for the insights. I'm here for the looks.
True.
And so today we're going to be talking about a little bit about this finals matchup between the Lakers and the Heat. It's been a series so far, guys. What are your predictions? What do you got?
Yeah, man, I think it's the Lakers all day. I mean, when you look at their motivations for the finals and just like this season as a whole, it's no secret Kobe's on everybody's minds. Rest in peace, him and Gianna and everybody in that horrible accident. They're on a completely different type of time. Like, I've never seen a postseason where you have a team just cleaning folks up in like 5 games apiece and having these odds against them, because like even when Golden State was doing it, it was kind of different. What makes it different is like, even if you look at the 73-9 Golden State team, that was a very talented team. Like, they had a whole lot of depth on the bench.
And you got 2 of the arguably greatest shooters of all time. So, it's going to be a good team.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, with the whole Kobe motivation, though, I think that's really just, on everybody's mind, You can't forget about it. It's just they're pushing for Kobe. He wears the 24 on his finger. They just want it so bad. And, credit to the Heat, though, because nobody thought the Heat was going to get this far. But they've came out of the East and just cleaned up somehow, They went through Boston. Credit to them, Jimmy Butler, Still wish the Sixers would have kept him, but the Sixers front office is going to do what they're going to do. But I think he's going to get a lot of respect after the season.
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys. I think it's going to be Lakers in 7, honestly, just because the Heat have some really strong guards. Dragic has been playing really well. Tyler Hero's been playing out of his shoes. Jimmy Butler's a good guard. Lakers, their guards they're not the strength of the team by any means. I also think the Heat have enough shooters to keep them in games. Like, I think the Heat are gonna shoot the ball well. Not saying the Lakers won't, but the higher scoring these games are, the better they are for the teams playing the Lakers. Lakers want to keep this game. They want to keep these games down around 100 points a game. But if the Heat come out and put up 60, 70 points in a half, it's gonna be tough for the Lakers to beat them. So I think the Heat will get a few games off them. But I think at the end of the day, especially in the NBA, old men win championships. So he got a lot of young guys on the team. The Lakers got so much experience. They got McGee, they got Howard, they got LeBron, they got Rondo.
It's the vets, man. The vets are just going to give you that extra level.
They got all these guys that have been to the finals, have played many playoff series before. The Heat really don't have that kind of experience with them. I think that's what wins championships in the NBA.
I mean, it's Jimmy Butler, it's Bam's first finals appearance. Neither of them have been in this position. So I think, they're going to have a hard time beating LeBron. Like everybody says, it's LeBron. He dealt with the Raptors for all those years. DeMar DeRozan still probably a little angry about that. But, hey, he's going to be one of the greatest players of all time. So he's going to be hard to get by.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, DeMar actually came out and said, that's the toughest motherfucker to get through. Like, every year they're focused on, okay, we just have to get through LeBron. They don't even care about who they're playing against in the finals. They're just like, yo, we have to get through LeBron. Like, that's kind of a mental challenge in its own. So
he's the gatekeeper, man. It really is. But, I think a lot of these guys coming off the bench, the rookies are really making a difference for the Heat. You got Tyler Hero, you got Duncan Robinson, you got Kendrick Nunn, all 3 rookies, and all getting, pretty great minutes considering the point they are in their career to be in the finals. Tyler Hero starting for Dragic, and, Duncan Robinson, shooter's going to shoot. I think those 2 guys, in the next few years are going to be insane. And if they can really elevate, I know Tyler Hero's been shooting not great, he's a volume shooter. So he's going to get his touches. He's going to make most of them, but he's shooting 6 for 20. He's shooting 6 for 18. It's not going to cut it. It's too many misses. So if he can really clean up his act, I think they'll be in a much better spot.
Now, I actually kind of disagree with you on that one, Don. If we're talking about the future of the Heat here, I think this is their year to win it. Because especially in the NFL, if you look at teams that are getting to the Super Bowl and getting to the finals, is they always talk about how if you make it, you got to win because you don't know if you're going to get back. Next year, just in the East, you got Boston's probably going to be a lot. He's going to be there again. Milwaukee might add somebody. Kevin Durant and Kyrie will be back. The Sixers will be decent. Like, this is Miami's year that if they're there, they got to win it now. Like, they may never get back. You know, Butler's 31, and as much as I love Butler, like, that's the wrong side of 30. Iguodala and Dragic are both at the end of their career. Bam and Tyler Hero and none of them guys, they're all very good, but this might be their max potential just with the system they're playing in.
Oh, no, I got to disagree with you on that one. I don't think that's max potential at all. I think some of these guys will pop off. You know, I think Duncan Robinson's probably one of the next JJ Redicks, you know, just a guy who shoots the lights out. You know, he doesn't really have to do anything else. You know, as long as he's giving you those buckets, he's making almost everything. You know, he's popping it right in dude's face as a rookie. You give him 2 years, get him comfortable. He's kind of scary to me.
He said it himself, like, that's just what he's out there to do. Like, he's just there to shoot. I would have to say the same. I'm rocking with Donovan on this one. Like, you know, I think next year, all right, let's be real. It's probably going to be the Nets.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
You got KD and Kyrie cooking. But I think after that, you know, when you have time to develop, like Kendrick Nunn, you know, he was at one point in time in conversation for Rookie of the Year this past season. You got him, you got Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero is out here he does not care. Like, he is the white boy with the cornrows, you know what I'm saying? And you got him, he's just gonna keep getting better. The game is gonna slow down for him. And I think especially the Heat are gonna be something to watch, like, in another 4 years or so, like when everybody is, you know, all the rookies on the team are really comfortable and in their spots and stuff like that. And, you know, if Jimmy Butler is still there by that time, you know, we might be seeing this again. So
I would be surprised.
You guys make good points here. I'll say this. You guys make some good points. And the one thing the Heat do have in favor for them is, like I said, their players are young. Or some of their players are young, I should say. But they also have a ton of cap room coming up. And they got arguably one of the best front offices in the game.
They're going to be a huge free agent destination.
Right, so if they get a Giannis or they get Kawhi Leonard for some reason or whatever, if he leaves Los Angeles next year, who knows? I'm not saying Kawhi.
Tired of PG.
That level, I don't know. Like, he only signed a 2-year deal. Like, who knows?
He can opt out next year.
He can opt out next year. I'm not saying he will, but like, he could.
All right, so we talked about all the Heats and, you know, their rookies and their young guys popping off. The Lakers, who has to step up if they want to close this out?
So I think Rondo needs to play at his peak, and I think he will. Like, he's been very good since that first game against the Rockets. He's been pretty damn good.
I'm about to say, he's been kind of cooking.
I think Twitter really woke him up. Twitter was frying his ass like a nice pancake after that game against the Rockets. Since then, he's been pretty damn good.
He's being so just like KCP last year, you know. Twitter had to bully him into being better.
Exactly. So, especially when it comes to LeBron in the playoffs, is as good as LeBron is people still have to step up around him.
100%.
Somebody has to step up for LeBron and say, hey, we know that you can handle the ball, but we know that you're good in the post. We know you're good out on the wing. We need you to do more for the team than just like handling the ball, because that's an issue. I don't want to say an issue, but that's definitely a potential issue for the Lakers. Is LeBron's decision making still is very good, but he still does have a lot of turnovers for his play style.
We saw a lot of that in Game 4.
So whether that be Rondo, whether that be Caruso, somebody needs to step up and play consistently at the point guard position.
But see, that's the thing though, is that if you notice the way that they do their lineups or whatever, when LeBron is out on the floor, whenever he gets his rest around the third quarter for like a good 6 minutes, that's when they put in AD and Rondo back in. It's basically like swapping out LeBron for LeBron. And I actually heard or I read somewhere that LeBron was at the box and was calling the other team's play as they were doing it.
Somebody on the team forgot to play, and LeBron told him the Raptors play that was coming up.
No, he did that then, yeah. And then he did it again like this series, like where he was calling their offensive play as it was like going on. And then Rondo went and did the same thing on the other end, So their IQs that's just a testament to their IQs, and that LeBron has been doing this for as long as he's been doing it. But, I think that AD, Rondo, and LeBron, like they're set. I think if anything, like what you said about the turnovers is pretty valid. Not getting AD in foul trouble is always good. And then the other thing is, I think Danny Green got to start hitting shots. Danny Green
has to step up here. He's getting paid too much money, and they did too much to get him for him to hitting all these bricks.
Bro,
it's atrocious, man. And, he's one of the better shooters. His defense is still great. He makes his shuffles. He's getting there, but he's got to shoot better than this. He's breaking wide open shots. I've never seen anything.
He's got bullseye and dead shot tatted on his shooting arm, and he's missing all of these shots.
And
this is comedy. This is comedy. Like, come on now, you can't.
But him and Kuzma, I think, are the top two that just really are going to have to step up. Kuzma's not looking great. I thought he was one of the better rookies in his class. He still kept it up, but I think his growth, got a little stunted by being on the Lakers. It happens. They had guys that were better than him. He wasn't going to get his touches. Like we saw with Brandon Ingram. Got traded and, is now popping off for the Pelicans. But he's not shooting right, and he looks confused and lost on the court sometimes. I don't know if you guys have noticed that too, but sometimes you see him and he just fouls the ball, and you're like, you have a man to be guarding, and he's just letting wide open shots come. And the Heat might not capitalize on all of them, but that's unacceptable. You've been in the league too long now for that to be a mistake you make.
I think Kuzma is mentally somewhere else. Like, his skills, he's not like, whenever you're on a journey to, progress in a field or whatever, like in this case it's basketball, but this could be basketball, we're all starting our careers in film, blah, blah, blah. You have to think that you're the best in order to help your development. And I think that it got to Kuzma's head a little bit too much, like him thinking that he's the best without him also being realistic. Like, yeah, I'm the best, but I also have a lot of work to put in to really validate that statement. Cause you see him out here, just making the most bonehead passes, and like he's taking the craziest shots. And then when he hits the game winner, and is like, I would have shot that if God was in front of me. Like, bro,
right?
Just shoot the shot, man.
His mentality wasn't there, but the work wasn't there.
Yeah, like, come on, son. Like, yo, baby steps, bro. Like, I'm not saying like, maybe one day.
The gap is too wide, man.
Yeah, like one day it might be there.
Like, respect the shot 100%. You did that, kid, but you can only have a big ego if you're doing that on a consistent basis.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
But, we have our role players and we have our stars. So, hypothetically, the Heat win. Who are you giving Finals MVP to?
Jimmy. Like, I don't even think it's a contest. Like,
I think Bam would have been the only one to come close.
I was going to say that, yeah, if it's not Jimmy, it's got to be Bam.
But Bam didn't play enough in the series.
He didn't.
For him to really get consideration. He missed, 2-3 games?
I would definitely say Butler. That game 2 performance was pretty impressive for me. For him to put up 40 without putting up any threes, that's very rare to see.
It's hard to do in today's NBA.
Yeah, like I said, it's very rare to see. Even big guys that don't take a ton of threes, like maybe Kat or Embiid, or even like a Porzingis, like they all shoot some threes a game. Like they're expected to probably hit a few if they're going to put up 40. But for Butler to do that with nothing tells me he was just taking it to the basket. He had that mentality that he's famous for. He was just going hard at it, and that was impressive to me. So I'd say he's the leader of that team. So if they're going to go as far as he'll take them.
I have a little bit of criticism, game 4, we've seen him take it to the rack, get these contested layups, make the easy move, get the pass back on the screen. I didn't see any of that game 4. We saw it first quarter, second quarter. He came back in the half and they were in that game the whole time, and he just couldn't make a move. He had 1 point in the entire third quarter, and he was 1 for 2 on free throws. I don't know, as a leader on that team, he's got to do better there.
Well, I think that just because of the adjustments the Lakers made. Like, if you know, I believe it was between game 3 and 4. There was talk about LeBron guarding Butler, and then AD was like, "Listen, you got too much on your plate. I got him." And that's when you see the result of that is his game 4 performance. Like, Anthony Davis is a monster. Obviously, should have been Defensive Player of the Year. Like, he didn't even hesitate to say, "Yo, I got that assignment." That the actual Defensive Player of the Year.
I'm guarding the best team's player. What are you doing?
Yeah, like, so I think that was a major adjustment on the Lakers' part, to have Anthony Davis like really clamp him up, and it forces players to take stupid shots because you have this 6'10" behemoth of a man like guarding you right in your face and stuff. Yeah, like, yo, it's ridiculous, and having him in the paint like that, where Jimmy is going to take a majority of his shots, that definitely impacted how he performed in Game 4.
So because of his defense, are you giving AD Finals MVP over Bron?
See, that's funny. This is going to be very interesting because you're going to see a clash of who's actually watching the games and then who checks the box score after the game. Like, if you're checking the box score...
So you're giving it to Bron.
Well, see, if you check the box score, it should go to Bron. But if you're doing just the eye test, then it would go to AD. And I love Bron. I definitely want him to get Finals MVP, but I think like it should be going to AD because AD's been doing a lot, man. Like, it is hard to discredit that man. And I think if he doesn't get it this year, the next time that the Lakers are in the finals, because I definitely see them going to the finals at least one more time with this setup, more or less. I think he'd have to get it then. And I definitely think that he should get it this time.
Yeah, my pick's Davis as well. I think Anthony Davis he's been the best player all postseason for the Lakers. Like, you can say LeBron's definitely their leader, but Lakers are not in the finals without Davis. Like, they're not in the finals without LeBron either, but Anthony Davis has been the guy for them so far in the playoffs. And I think you got to give it to him.
Yeah, he's been putting up all the buckets. I don't know though. I'm still going for Bron, and I'm not a Bron lover or anything, but I think LeBron at the end of the day does more for the team, and it doesn't always show up in the box score. AD will give you 30 plus points. LeBron might only give you 22 that night, but LeBron with that is going to give you 9 rebounds, is going to give you 10 assists, is going to get you a steal, is going to get you a block. And AD might have the block and the steal, but I think AD is too inconsistent on his rebounds, and he doesn't have as many assists as LeBron. He never will. But that's what LeBron does, best basketball IQ maybe in the game. I think Bron really just doesn't outshine AD. AD is definitely better on the eye test, but I think Bron is doing more.
My dad made a great point. I think this was at the end of going into the Nuggets series, is he says LeBron will do whatever the Lakers need him to do to win the game. If the Lakers need 50 points out of LeBron for them to win, they'll do that. If they need LeBron to go and D up whoever their best player is on the other team and shut them down, and he only scores 10 or 12 points, that's what LeBron will do. LeBron's at a point in his career where he doesn't need to be the guy that puts up 35, 40 points every finals game if he's going to lose. He's going to be the guy that's like, all right, whatever this team needs me to be to win is what I'm going to do.
Exactly. He's kind of like the Swiss Army knife, and I think AD is just there to score. I don't think AD really does anything else other than scoring and defense particularly well.
And see, that's why I say, like, whether you say Anthony Davis or LeBron, like, I don't think that either of those are necessarily wrong. I think both of those are pretty...
No, I don't think there's wrong.
Yeah, because like you were saying, there's a lot of intangibles that come in when you say LeBron is Finals MVP. Like, it's certain things that come from, like I just said, when you're watching the game, because of the commentators, you can't hear LeBron tell his teammates what the Heat are doing as they're trying to figure it out. You can't really hear that, you know what I'm saying? And then the way that he is for like the first quarter and sometimes even the first half is just so focused on getting everybody else going and everybody else in a rhythm, because he knows that when it's time to go and get his, he's going to get his. Like,
oh yeah, when it's his time, he's gonna.
Yeah, like that is part of those intangibles that it's like he's being the true leader that the Lakers need him to be. And like Connor said, you know, whatever the Lakers need from him that night, he is more than willing to do it. So I don't think that LeBron is wrong. Like I said, I would love for it to be LeBron. I think it should be AD. But if it was LeBron, I love that. If it's Anthony Davis, I love that. Like, either way.
Definitely. I don't think there's really a bad option when it comes to them. I think if AD gets it, LeBron's going to be happy for him. If LeBron gets it, AD's going to be happy for him. And if they win a championship, I don't think anybody's going to be disappointed.
No, not at all.
It's an interesting point to make, Donovan. I couldn't possibly see either of them being really that upset if the other one wins Finals MVP, because they don't really give out Finals MVPs to guys who lose the series, you know?
No. And I think, you know, they talked a little bit about AD and Bron's relationship and how they have that relationship where they're not even really competing. They're there just to make each other better. They don't have that jealous factor in between them. There's no like, oh, I'm better than you are. Oh, you're better than I am. No, it's, hey, we're here. We're locked in. We want to win this chip and we're going to do whatever we can to go get it. And I think that's the most important thing, is that they're on the same page. And that's a scary thing to see in the NBA.
Oh, yeah.
Only certain guys will ever have that connection, and I think they have something special there.
I'd have to agree. Like you said, you know, the chemistry between the two of them, it's just...
And I guess we'll see how much longer they stick together. You know, LeBron's on the back end of his career, so, you know, do we think LeBron hands AD the reins when he leaves? Or do we think LeBron waits for Bronny and gives it to Bronny?
I don't know why I have a feeling like Davis and LeBron aren't going to end their career together. Like, LeBron's not going to end his career with Davis. I think LeBron and Davis I'm looking it up now. LeBron and Davis are the only two guys the Lakers have under contract after.
Yeah, everybody else was 1-year deals, non-guaranteed deals.
LeBron and AD can opt out after next year. My bad. But even then, that gives them pretty much nobody on their roster besides Anthony Davis and LeBron. That's enough cap space to go after a Bradley Beal or a
Oh yeah, they can definitely afford a third star. You know, they waited Kawhi the whole time last year just to not get him, but they were ready. They had the availability to sign that huge third star.
Exactly, and the Lakers have a possibility of becoming another like Golden State level dynasty, because if they get Bradley Beal in there in a year, he's not going to be super old. Him and Davis, their games mesh perfectly. Not to mention you'll still likely have LeBron, and it'll be the top destination for a bunch of ring-chasing veterans who want to get a ring. Do you imagine Chris Paul joining LeBron, get Bradley Beal and Anthony Davis?
No, it's not going to happen.
That's a 2K All-Star.
If that happens to the league, I don't think there's a reason to watch basketball. They win. They just win. You have the two best basketball IQs in the NBA. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, are you kidding me?
You would never be able to find the ball.
And then on top of that, look at Chris. I know this is a little off topic, but look at what Chris Paul did this season. He took scraps that were supposed to be in the lottery and brought them to the playoffs.
A 0.2% chance to get to the playoffs.
And then he's out here like he's winning games not just off of the physicality, but he's like mind fucking the other team. Like, yo, you see what he did with the Timberwolves, where he's like, yo, his jersey's untucked. And then that caused a delay of game.
Yeah.
And then that gets everybody.
Too smart.
Yeah, that gets everybody out of a rhythm. So now you have that mentality and then him and Bron already got chemistry. So you have that mentality with his insanely high IQ, with LeBron's insanely high IQ, and then you have Anthony Davis. That alone by itself is nuts.
It's a championship team.
Exactly.
Easy.
And then you throw in Bradley Beal. Now you have two top flight defenders, and then you got two people with insanely high IQs. Like, you can just throw in the three of us with that team, and we're winning.
No, we're going to the chip with him.
Are you serious?
I'm sitting there right on the bench with Jared Dudley. Come on, what's up?
That's what I'm saying. Like,
call me. I'll get everybody water. I'll be super hype on the bench. Yo, LeBron, if you hear this, call me.
Yo, straight up. We can get you more points than Danny Green is getting you off the bench, for real. That's what I'm saying.
But I think the Miami Heat in the next few years too are gonna have a crazy team. There's already rumors Giannis might leave. Victor Oladipo, unconfirmed, said he wanted to leave the Pacers. He says so different on social media, but we all know, how NBA stars are. They say one thing and then a couple months later, totally different story.
Well, like I was getting to earlier, the Heat have a lot of great things going for them. They have a system with Eric Spoelstra where players play pretty well on it. I don't know if you remember that team the Sixers played in the playoffs a couple of years ago. That team had nobody.
Not even close to the same team anymore.
I know, but my point was they were still good enough to be a 6 seed in the East.
And I give that credit to Eric Spoelstra, though. He's coached the hell out of some of these guys.
Right, and I'm saying so when you have that coach, that system, you have Pat Riley, who's one of the best GMs in the league, and you have living in Miami and South Beach,
no,
players are going to want to go there regardless. The fact that they have Bam, they have Butler, they have Tyler Hero, and they have money to pay dudes, anybody in the league who's potentially leaving or wants to leave, Miami's a great destination for pretty much anybody at this point.
Oh yeah, it's going to be huge this year, and it hasn't been big in a long time since LeBron, but they're gonna have some guys that are fighting. So if you're Pat Riley, do you keep your young guys in Hero, Duncan Robinson, and Kendrick Nunn, or do you try to use them in trade pieces to get bigger free agents?
I'd say keep them. You look at what you're getting, there are certain things that you can't coach into a player. You either have the dog in you or you don't.
And we can just look at the snarl Tyler Hero did. He's got that dog in him.
Yeah, and his what was he at that point?
6 and 20.
Yeah, you're snarling with 6 and 20,
yeah, against LeBron.
Against LeBron,
you're
you know what happened
to LeBron going 6 and 20, and you're still snarling. You can't teach that.
Yeah, the last time that happened was when Jason Tatum dunked on LeBron and was flexing in his face, and we all know how that ended. So
we won't talk about that.
See what I'm saying? So it's one of those things. You feel me? I think that you got to keep them because while the destination and the cap space is of course going to be attractive, having something that you're going to and not something that you have to build is also attractive. Having Duncan Robinson, you're going to have him. Having Bam and Kendrick Nunn and Tyler Hero, and then Jimmy still being there, or even if Jimmy is not there, you put in another leader in the mix of that, done. And just for the record, I feel because y'all been talking about Giannis going to the Heat, hot take, Giannis to Portland, that's all they need.
Ooh, to Portland. They already have 2 really good bigs.
I don't know if Portland. I don't know
if they take another huge guy.
I'd tell Whiteside to go find yourself a trade, buddy. You're out of here. If Giannis is coming.
Oh, if you can get
Giannis is the dude you make room for.
It's just like LeBron. If you can try to get LeBron, you're going to make the trades to try to get LeBron. You just are.
He's a guy that you figure the rest of the roster out around.
Yeah, but I think they already have 2 people that they're committed to. I don't think they're going to want to change their roster just for Giannis if they already have Dame and CJ.
Well, I was talking more role player wise, more
role player wise. Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of what I meant with build a roster.
So Trevor Ariza, Melo.
Yeah, it's how the Sixers need to build a better roster around Simmons and Embiid. Simmons and Embiid aren't the issues like the rest of the roster.
It's everybody else.
Yeah, and they need to build a roster around those guys. Same way Milwaukee needs probably to build a little better roster around Giannis. They need a better half-court system. Giannis and Ben Simmons run into the same issues where they're ridiculously good in the transition game. And this is what I think LeBron's issues were early in his career too, is that he was not good in the half court. LeBron still might be the best transition player of all time, but the fact that he's one of the best half court players of all time now is why he's so great. And that's the difference between him and Jordan to me. Jordan was always a great half-court player, and when it comes down to big games and it comes down to the playoffs, it comes down to half-court basketball. Nobody wins NBA championships with like fast breaks and like transition games. So
No.
that's why Toronto won last year. That's why LeBron eventually won when him and Wade settled down and played half-court basketball. And that's why Embiid and Simmons and Giannis have issues in the playoffs, because they're not great half-court players. And the Heat, like I said, have a great system to where it doesn't matter how good of a player you are, the system's good enough to win you some games, and having exceptional players like LeBron or like Wade or even Jimmy Butler, that's when these guys really start to win, is when you have a system with you.
I would have to agree. I think that, it's been said to death, but, these guys getting jump shots obviously changes a lot of things. And I definitely would have to agree, when you strengthen that half-court game, it makes all the difference. Like, when it's down to the last minute, right? Y'all are down 3 points or 4 points. Nobody is doing anything in transition. Everything, we're slowing this down to a grinding halt. You got to be able to shoot in those situations.
Yeah, you got to be able to make plays in the half court. Like, yeah, it's a great way to say it, Fred.
The future overall, though, man, I think is very promising. I think the Heat definitely will be back.
The Heat are going to lose Goran Dragic, Kelly Olynyk, Solomon Hill, Myers Leonard, Jay Crowder, Udonis Haslem, and Derek Jones Jr. all this year. That's a lot of role players there. Do you re-sign Goran Dragic?
How many of those guys actually play and like are contributing? Because
Solomon Hill and Myers Leonard are a little iffy, but Jay Crowder plays a lot. Kelly Olynyk has a lot of minutes, and Goran Dragic is your starter.
The only one on those guys that I really think is a big loss is Dragic, but at 34 years old and coming off another ankle injury, he may not be the same guy anymore. So I don't think any of those guys are that big of losses. I don't think they're not guys that you can't replace by any.
They're not irreplaceable.
But I think at the same time, Goran Dragic he was their leading scorer. Like, that's the person who is leading them. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely feel like, Goran, you got to keep Goran, sign him to a vet minimum. And then I think everybody, like, if you can get a vet minimum to a couple of those other guys, like Solomon Hill, do it. And then if not, there'll be
it's the NBA. There's other guys.
Yeah, and I think that at the very least, this Heat team, with all of those guys being gone and stuff like that, let's say that happens, and some folks are bouncing around, this, that, and the third, I truly think, it's not like we're not going to see them in the playoffs again. Like, we got 8 teams in the East, and at least, like, the bottom half of the East is still garbage. The top half is rough to get through, but the bottom half, like, are y'all really pressed about the Wizards? Or, well,
hey, John Wall's coming back.
When John Wall comes back, different. John Wall and Bradley Beal, who knows, right? But are y'all really pressed about the Hawks? You know what I'm saying?
No.
So I think that when it's all said and done, we could be looking at the Heat as like an 8th seed, for a couple of years, maybe the 6th seed.
I think Jimmy Butler is really going to come into his own on this team. He's finally getting the role that he wanted. He struggled to be that guy on his team for a while. He had the stint on the Timberwolves. We saw what happened there, cursing everybody out with the third stringers. He came to the Sixers, too many egos, didn't work out. He's finally got a team where he's that guy. Everybody's looking at you, and I think he really likes that. So I think he's going to stay there a while, and I think he's really going to relish in this position, especially when Bam starts to get even better. Because you figure Bam hasn't hit his prime yet. He's still got time to grow, time to get better, and if they can do that together, kind of what Bron and AD have, I think they could easily have that.
I think it's impressive also how fast LeBron and AD kind of gelled and meshed. Is usually in the NBA when you have these big 2 pair-ups, these guys take a little bit of time. Like, you look at like Wade and Shaq when they started, they didn't win their first year. Kobe and Shaq didn't win their first years. these guys sometimes take a little bit to get used to playing with each other, and the fact that the Lakers are being able to do this quickly has been pretty impressive to me.
I think that's also part of LeBron's plan, though. LeBron's been planning this for years, way back to even when AD was back in high school. He's coming to LeBron's camp. He was like, this kid's going to be good. I want to play with him. And here they are, how many ever years later.
I can't imagine there's any guys in the league that are that good that LeBron doesn't want to play with.
I'm sure anybody would be hands down ready to play with LeBron if LeBron was like, I want you.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
But, I think both of these franchises have done great things, Coming out the gate, nobody was really sure about either of these teams, and to see them in the finals is really something crazy, especially with the whole Kobe legacy and with Butler coming into his own as a franchise player. I think there's really great things.
I'll agree with that. This definitely was not my finals pick at the start of the playoffs. I think I had Houston and Boston, or Houston and Milwaukee playing each other.
Yeah, man, Houston. We're getting off topic again, but Houston is like, fam, what? Like they, the OKC series, I had OKC in that, and I was really pulling for OKC to go up against the Lakers because I thought it would have been interesting to have a team that, it's something, sports, film, whatever, that always fascinates me when you have somebody who is undersized or shouldn't be in this position that they're in, and they gotta think their way into beating the opposition. Like they can't beat them head on. And that would have been OKC versus the Lakers, because obviously everybody is gonna say, oh, Lakers are gonna win that. But I really wanted to see how they were going to think their way into winning that series. And I feel like the Rockets' whole plan is like, they play the way I play pickup with like my pickup squad in town. Like, yo, you go get your point, and then I'm gonna go get my point, and then he's gonna go get his point.
You gotta share the ball.
Yeah, and then after that, it's just like, okay, we're gonna all stand around, watch you go ISO and shoot a three. Like, that's the Rockets' game plan, basically. You can shut that down.
It's the 5 out, somebody's gonna shoot the three. We're just gonna pass it until somebody's eventually open.
So that is just so funny to me. Like the way that they were not trying to adjust it. Like they truly did live and die by the three, and I have to respect
You have to respect it, because nobody else is going to try that in this league. Three might be the important ball, but you got to have layups, you got to have transition, you got to have the screens coming, guys driving.
Yeah.
And not going with a big, I think, really started to hurt.
But if you look at the Warriors, the lineup from the Warriors that just ran through everybody was the team with Draymond at the 5, and they were running the small ball. That team, there's no reason that system can't work 48 minutes a game. You just need the personnel for it.
Yeah, that's true. You got to hit your shots. You got to have the right guy.
At the end of the day, most games, if you make the other team's big guy their prominent offensive player and scorer, most of the time they're going to win those games. It's like, look if they're playing Utah, hypothetically, and if you need Rudy Gobert to score 40 points a game, and that's what they're going to be playing when they're playing them, most likely the Utah Jazz aren't going to win that game. Because that means Donovan Mitchell and Conley and Ingles and all those other guys that are good scorers, they're not getting the ball. So that's if you think about it, in especially a 7-game series, it's a good system to run against these teams. Take their guys.
It's true. It just has to be the right team.
Yeah, and even against the Lakers, I think it works well too. Because if you look, the Lakers cannot shoot the three that well, and they can't defend the three that well. And at the end of the day, that's in general how you beat the Rockets, and that's how the Lakers beat the Rockets. So I don't think it was their system. Like you said, I think it was on Harden and Westbrook and the rest of the team. For us as healthy that series, I don't know. I don't know how it would have went.
We're coming to the last few games of the series. What do you got? I'm thinking Lakers in 6.
I'm gonna be that guy and say Lakers in 5.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Donovan. I think Lakers in 6. I think Jimmy Butler will have them ready, and they'll probably knock down enough shots to steal. Probably.
I think they're getting at least one more game.
Yeah, I don't think it'll go to 7, but 6 seems right.
So, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you to everyone for listening to our very first podcast. We will have plenty more to come. For The Jersey Doesn't Come Off, I'm Donovan Kennedy.
I'm Freddie Goodman.
I'm Connor Johnson.
And just one last note, don't forget to follow us on our socials to get all the highlights and updates for the future. And hopefully, we'll see you in the next one.